Welcome at the fourth video of creating a to-do list in JavaScript. In this video, we're going to create the routes of our backend. We want our frontend to be able to send API calls to our backend, and our backend should react on this. We want it to edit and also read data from the db.json file, which then can be sent back to our frontend. For these routes, there are 5 different HTTP methods we can use. We have get, we have post, we have put, we have patch, and we have delete. For these routes, we're going to use the Express framework. So I would definitely recommend you to check the documentation of Express. I will put the most interesting URLs in the description below. Alright, so we are going to create 2 routes, a get route and a post route. Let's start with the get route. We are going to use the app object and use the get method, which needs 2 parameters. The first one will be the URL where we can send API calls to. So let's say getItems. And the second one needs to be a function. I'm going to use a arrow function, and it needs 2 parameters, a request and a response. Inside the function, we want to read everything in the db.json file. So we have an object here with an property keys with an array inside of it, and I want to get this object, and therefore I will need the file system. So file system is a Node.js function or a Node.js system where you can find the documentation of on the Node.js website. There are 2 functions we could use. The first one is read file, and the second one is read file sync. Read file sync is synchronous, read file is asynchronous. Asynchronous means it will execute and not wait for the next line to be executed. Synchronous will mean it is going to execute the read file, and if it's done, then it will go to the next line. So we're going to use the read file, the asynchronous method, and you can see what parameters it needs here with an example. So we are going to use file system read file. First of all, it needs a path. So we want the path to our db.json. So it is just db.json, but I'm going to add the dir name variable. So we are definitely sure it is the right path. And then we want db.json. And the second parameter is a function with 2 parameters, a arrow function like this. All right, so if I'm trying, actually, I could just copy this code. If something goes wrong, it should throw an error. If not, we can execute this code. So let's see if this is working. First of all, we need to make a request or a API call to our backend. So I'm going to my frontend to create a fetch function, and I'm going to use the fetch function from the cheat sheet website here from DevHints. It's just easier to copy it than fully write it. So we want a fetch call to get items, and this is it. Now if we run our server, the fetch call will be executed to our backend, and we should see some console in our terminal. So first of all, I'm going to open the terminal again, nodemon server. All right, server is running, and then going to our server. All right, so you can see there happened something here. It tried to log the file, but it looks weird. And the reason why this is is because it's still a JSON file. So when we are reading a JSON file, we need to parse it. So if we say JSON parse data, now it should look like an object, but we get not much, it seems. Let's refresh. Oh yeah, here it is, our object from our db.json. And from the object, I want to return all the items in the array. So I'm going to create a response to my front end, a response. And the response has multiple functions. You can send files, you can send only a status, or you can send JSON objects like we're going to do. Most of the time, we will also send a status combined with a JSON file, for example, status. And then we have multiple states we can use. For example, 200 will be if it's just everything is all right and nothing is wrong. But we have also, for example, a bad request, unauthorized for if this URL or this route is only for admins, or a 404 if it's not found. You can choose which status you want to send with the status function. So in this case, we're only going to use the OK status because it is working, but you could, of course, add another state here, for example, or another response with a 404 or a 403, for example. All right, so response.status should be inside our function because it's a asynchronous function. And then we are going to chain the JSON method and pass our data to it. But I don't want the data, I want the property items. So I'm going to return .items. And let's refresh, see if we get an array. All right, so we are now returning an empty array, which is perfect. So if I'm going to my developer tools in Chrome, I can also see these responses. So if I refresh and I'm going to the network tab, you can see I sent a API call to localhost 3000/getItems. And the response is what we can see in preview, an empty array. So this is perfect. We are going to use this array later. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is another route, app.post. And of course, it also needs two parameters. So first the URL, save item, and a arrow function with, of course, again, a request and response parameter. So we want every time when we create a new list item, we want to send this list item to our backend. In our backend, we're going to save this new list item in our db.json. So we are going to test this with a new fetch call in our front end. I'm going to todo.js and paste another test fetch function, which I'm going to copy here. I'm going to copy this fetch function and paste it. And we only need, this is something we don't need, and this we only need one body. And of course we need to change data.json into save item. So in the body we are sending our data, and in the header we are saying what kind of data we are sending. So this should actually be content type. So the type of content we are sending is JSON, and we are sending an object, and we could take a test object from above, like this one, for example, and paste it into the JSON stringify function. The only thing we need to do is make it a real JSON object, because now it's just a regular JavaScript object. So we need the keys also to be a string, and now it is a JSON object. All right, so let's try to print this in our backend. I'm going to write a log, and I want the request.body because we are sending data through the body. All right, and let's refresh our local host, and we can see we are getting our object in our server. So the next thing we want to do is get our db.json file again and append our new object to the db.json file. So first of all, let's copy this piece of code, file system.read file. We're reading our db.json again, and we are getting our db.json object, and I'm going to save it in a variable, const db is equal to the data we get from our file. And then we want to append our new object to this db array, to the items, because we have a object and we want it to append in the items array. The easiest way to append an item to an array is using array.length. So we are going to use db and then we first need to select our array because this is still an object. We need items. This is our array, this is an object. And then we need db.items.length. So this will select the last item of the array, an empty item, of course. And this is equal to our new objects. All right, so maybe we should print this like console log db and console log here. And then the last step is to rewrite our file. So I'm going to use write file sync this time, write file sync, and I'm going to say dir name plus db.json and then our db, but we have to stringify it, so we are going to use json.stringify and give db as a parameter. All right, let's see if this is working. Maybe our response also, let's change the response. Just return a message, for example, message is equal to new item saved. All right, so let's refresh our page. We have our first our this is 2 times our object. All right, yeah, here I can see we have our db with an empty array and our db.json with our new objects inside of it. So normally if you go to db.json, you can see our new object has been added. In the next video, we are going to create the delete and update route in our backend. We're also going to clean up our front end, so we are calling this route at the correct moment. All right, see you in the next video.